Goil has that sorted. Goil, good energy.
Electricity, pay your taxes. Yeah, our taxes, our future.
Because you see, without our taxes, we wouldn't have good roads, good schools, better hospitals, street lights, and other very important social amenities. When we pay our taxes, we give our children free and quality education. Tell God, my money too small. Why should I pay my tax? Look, small. Salifo, it doesn't matter how small or big your business or income is. You still have to pay your taxes. The little taxes from each and every one of us, when put together, could give your community clean water. Or that deprived school with tables and chairs. Please pay your taxes. It is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. It is the law.
Impressive factory. If only I had listened to you, I wouldn't have been in this mess. That devastating fire virtually wiped out the whole factory and my warehouse.
Remember my misfortunes last year? Serene Insurance Asset All Risk Fire policy that I took were there to pay for my damaged stocks in the warehouse. And my machines that were affected by the floods have been replaced. My accident vehicle is back on the road thanks to Serene Insurance Motor Policy. Currently, my goods are on the high seas, covered with their marine cargo insurance policy. I was just telling Ajima about Serene Insurance.
Oh, Ajima,
tell him more.
As a road contractor, I make sure I do my contractors all risk insurance for the projects and then workers' compensation for all the workers on site. With Serene Insurance, they will make sure they will cover your unknown tomorrow today.
Serene Insurance, a new face of insurance. Call us now.
MPS Terminal 3 is Africa's new state-of-the-art container terminal at Tema Port. For manufacturers, agro-processors and traders, the new port means business can be done faster. This infrastructure boost will improve Ghana's port handling capacity, connect more trading routes, and oil the engine of growth for the economy, creating greater opportunities across all sectors as Africa's markets merge and become the largest trading bloc globally. MPS, we connect, you thrive.
All right, you're welcome back. It's now time for us to take a look at happenings in the port and shipping industry in the course of the week. And in the course of the week, Ghana had the privilege to host the 17th extraordinary session of the General Assembly of the Maritime Organization for West and Central Africa, MOCA, plus the fact that in the course of the week, Ghana also joined the rest of the world to celebrate International Customs Day. Let's take a look at these stories.
The 17th extraordinary session of the General Assembly of the Maritime Organization of West and Central Africa, MOCA, has been held in Accra, Ghana, to enable the organization perform more effectively in steering the affairs of the region's maritime industry. The three-day meeting, which brought together ministers of member states and high-level technical experts and advisors, was essentially used to give consideration and adopt a MOCA-IMO joint action plan that seeks to contribute to strengthening of the maritime economy in the region. Secretary General of MOCA, Dr. Paul Adaliku, underscored some of the strides undertaken since he took over the reins of leadership, which have caused the rebirth of the previously dormant institution.
My expectation is to use the platform of MOCA to plant a lush and luxuriant economic tree for the entire African continent on the ashes of the old version of the organization that I met on ground when I took over the reins of this organization.
Chairman of MOCA and Ghana's Minister for Transport, Kweku Foresiama, called on member states to fulfill their obligations to the organization and approach development of the sector in a concerted manner.
You will be asked to make important financial decisions that will determine how the organization operates. It will be required of you to deliberate and approve the work plan or program and budget of.
Special guest of honor and Ghana's Minister of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, Shirley Ayoko Botwe, urged the organization to take practical discussions towards green shipping initiatives in accordance with global trends.
The organization must begin frank discussions on current developments in green shipping initiatives, which involve the use of alternative fuels with low or zero carbon in place of fossil fuels, as this is fast becoming the new way of shipping, and Africa cannot afford to be left behind as the world makes this move.
Authority earlier this week joined the rest of the world to mark the International Customs Day 2023 with a dedication to nurturing the next generation and promoting a culture of knowledge sharing and professional pride in customs. The ceremony was also used to take stock of the authority's strides over the past year and strategize for the future. Speaking on behalf of the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, his deputy, Dr. John Kumar, revealed that customs revenue grew by a nominal growth rate of 38.4% with a collection of 22.2 billion as against the target of 20.2 billion. The Deputy Finance Minister urged customs to be more resolute and work harder towards helping the GRA meet its revenue target of 105 billion cedis.
The current GDP is estimated to be about 800 billion for 2023. This supposes that we should be targeting, if you are looking at 20% of 8 to 800 billion, we should be targeting 160 billion as our revenue collection annually for Ghana. But the 2023 revenue target for the authority, however, is 105 billion, 998.73 billion. And that's about 54 billion lower than what we are supposed to be targeting. I wish to urge you all to work even harder in this year.
The Commissioner of Customs, Seydou Idrisu Idisa, said in 2023, the World Customs Organization is keen on human capital development and skills transfer and development of the younger generation.
Given the impending need for us to leverage on technology and creativity, which the young ones are versatile with, I recommend that we support them with the requisite skills and training that will guide them to work professionally and impact on others.
Chairman at the event, former Commissioner Wallace Akondo, urged current customs officers to harness the capacities of predecessors towards revenue mobilization and trade facilitation objectives.
Here we are, this country badly needs every single foreign exchange generated. Why wouldn't you use your capacity in collaboration with the Bank of Ghana and the banks to fight the canker of capital flight, so that the much needed foreign exchange that we need in this country remains in this country?
Stakeholders of customs present expressed continued support for the transformational agenda of customs, which includes strengthening collaboration and knowledge sharing. At the ceremony, outstanding customs officers who have performed exceptionally across the various customs centers in the country were celebrated with awards.
Okay, so those were happenings in the port and shipping industry in the course of the week. We are now going global to see what's happening on the shipping stage.
Container shipping giants Mediterranean Shipping Company and Maersk AS, an entity under AP Moller Maersk, have agreed to terminate the 2M alliance effective in January 2025. 2M is a container shipping line vessel sharing agreement signed by the duo in 2015 with the aim of ensuring competitive and cost-efficient operations on the Asia-Europe transatlantic and trans-Pacific trades by sharing vessel space and network capacity. The 2M agreement has a minimum term of 10 years with a 2-year notice period of termination. The duo said that the announcement has no immediate impact on the services provided on the 2M trades. The company added that 2M was introduced in 2015 at a time when the ocean carrier industry needed an injection of stability. The 2M Alliance operates over 200 ships and serves more than 200 ports in around 120 countries. According to the Alliance, the 2M partnerships serves around 40% of the world's container trade. Singapore-based Pacific International Lines, PIL, has partnered with its fleet optimization experts, I4 Insight, to help it reduce emissions and maximize fleet performance with a 4-year fleet-wide agreement. PIL recently opened a Center for Maritime Efficiency, which is powered by the I4 platform and uses shoreside routing services as the technological backbone for achieving its decarbonization goals. LR Digital Solutions Division CEO Martin Taylor stated that the CME was established to better manage their fleet, evaluate vessel performance, and ensure PIL is making the best decisions to maximize revenue potential. PIL is ranked 12th among the world's top container shipping lines and has 55 years of shipping experience.
All right, so you're welcome back. Those were happenings in the port and shipping industry on the international stage. We are now going to take our word for the day, or phrase of the day, and today's word is beam. Beam.
A beam is the width of a ship.
All right, so we're zooming into our discussion proper tonight, and if you saw the local stories that we showed you today, we also showed you that story from Ghana joining the rest of the world to celebrate the International Customs Day 2023, and so we are centering our discussion on that particular event this evening. We are taking a look at how we can promote professionalism in Ghana's customs administration coming on the heels of International Customs Day 2023. And so with us in the studios tonight to do the discussion is Mr. Samuel Akrofi, who is the Principal Revenue Officer, Ghana Revenue Authority Customs Division at the laboratories. We also have in the studios Mr. Joseph Agbaga. Mr. Agbaga is former president of the Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders. He's an astute freight forwarder as well, and he also played a very key role in this year's celebrations of International Customs Day. He delivered a very lucid presentation there, and so he's here also to help us with this discussion tonight. Let me say a very good evening to you, gentlemen, and welcome to Iron Port.
Thank you.
And let me say Happy New Year.
Same to you, my brother.
All right, so let me begin with Mr. Akrofi. I want to begin with you and then find out the role of customs, how it has evolved over the years. We started from somewhere, and we have grown from stage to stage. There have been transformations, there have been modifications, there have been additions, there have been subtractions, just to get you to where you are today. Can you walk us through this process, how the customs division has evolved over the years? You know, at some point you were SEPS, Customs Excise and Preventive Service and all that.
Exactly. Yeah. So the erstwhile SEPS is now the Customs Division of Ghana Revenue Authority.
Absolutely.
But customs in general still remains customs. And the rules began with collecting of duties and taxes for national development. But the way we do our work is dictated by the trends in international trade and transport.
Right.
And so at a point it became necessary that the role of customs evolves to include other rules and other tasks and other responsibilities. Key among these responsibilities was the protectionism at a point, because you realize that if you open your floodgates, I mean, you open your country to all the influx of all the kinds of goods,
yes,
you are likely to crowd out even your own local industry. So now customs became an instrument to promote the growth of local industry through protection of the economic interests of the country.
Yeah.
Now you get to a point where you might increase taxes on things that ordinarily come into the country that are also produced here as a way of sustaining your economy. But some of these goods do not respond.
Right.
And so it also became necessary to add another layer of protection of the economic interest, and how to do with society. Customs now becomes responsible for making sure that we protect society against the illicit movement of drugs, of counterfeit products, of items that are deemed sensitive to the environment. And once the environment comes in, there's a lot of discussions at the international level where a lot of international conventions are in place, and they usually impose binding responsibilities and obligations upon the country. So I would notably mention the Basel Convention on the Control of the Transboundary of Hazardous Waste Materials and their disposal. There is the Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety. There is the Rotterdam Convention on Prior Informed Consent. There's even the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species. There are so many international conventions. Post 9/11, it became necessary to even become more aware of the kinds of things that move across international borders, simply because the international shipping routes can be a target.
Right.
The supply chain can be a target or can also be used as a conduit for moving materials that can end up hurting the various countries.
Right.
So the roles of custom has to evolve to include measures, security measures aimed at disrupting this flow of goods in consonance with international conventions, notably the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1540, the operative paragraph 3 that speaks about putting in effective measures to prevent chemical, biological materials, radiological, nuclear materials, or other materials that would impose some form of decisive military advantage to adversaries. And customs becomes the tool that is used to make sure that these kinds of materials don't come into the country. Some time back, I don't know whether you heard that there was dumping of toxic waste in a neighboring country. If the customs had been a little more knowledgeable or stringent in terms of protecting these things from coming into the country, then they wouldn't have been able to enter into the country. So customs now, all of a sudden, assumes the role of protecting public safety through movement of goods across international borders. Now, in the midst of all this, you see that it is also important that customs plays a role in promoting a good economic relationship between countries. So we have free trade agreements, trade facilitation, and all that. So now customs becomes a tool for trade facilitation. And then, like I mentioned again, terrorism has become rife.
Right.
And so customs now has to assume a posture where we have to deter, detect, and then prevent these materials from coming into the country. So you see that customs officers will have to be able to even see a trigger of a gun being independently shipped. So the focus of customs have evolved over the years, just from revenue collection, to include all these responsibilities in order to deliver nation building to the country, protection of our society, and then promoting of trade. So that has been our journey as customs internationally.
All right, great. That's quite lucid. Thank you very much indeed. Mr. President, I call him Mr. President because he's the former president of the Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders, Mr. Joseph Agbaga, who's also the CEO of JSPEDI, freight forwarding company. I just want to find out from you, you delivered a presentation, a very deep presentation at the event. That was International Customs Day at Marvin Pickup Ambassador Hotel. I just want to find out from you if you can walk us through what it was about so that we can pick it one after the other.
Thank you, Mr. Host.
Yes, sir.
What we discussed at the 2023 International Customs Day primarily was about how to nurture a knowledge sharing. But I deviated from the knowledge sharing to talk about how to create a knowledge base first. If there is a knowledge base already, Then my take on it will be, how do we stimulate the already existing knowledge base so that we can consolidate it and then we can share it as we move forward. Right. Since customs is one of the pivots that takes care of the whole trading system.
Yes.
So that is what I spoke about.
Okay, so I just want to find out from you. He mentioned the fact that customs has had to, go out of its way from its traditional rule of just, receiving duties at the port and all that, and also doing other things to, encapsulating so many other things. It's a litany or a gamut of the whole things that they do at the moment. And I just want to find out from you what customs in our country can do to make us safe.
They've already been making a lot of things that make us safe already, because they provide other agency job or agency duties for other agencies like the EPA, the Food and Drugs, the Standards, and name it. In the time past, Customs does all the things that the Food and Drugs does today. So they have been doing all the things that makes us safe in the past.
Right.
It is now that, or those who did not know the other agency role of customs are seeing those agencies at the port peripheral today, and you may think that they are doing what they're supposed to do. Yes, they're supposed to do what they're supposed to do, but they have to do it at the background and leave the rest for customs to do at the borders.
Right.
And for the sake of eliminating duplications, because whatever they do is the government chemist, as far as customs is concerned, is the one who will give the final release of goods to go out.
Right.
They may do theirs documentarily, but customs also at their lab, or those whom we named the government chemists, has also the requisite knowledge to do the same thing. So for trade facilitation sake, in the time past, they do all those agency jobs for these agencies.
All right. Let me come to you and find out, what was the theme for this year's International Day celebrations, and how relevant is that in helping you as Customs GRA to realize objectives in Ghana?
Thank you very much for the question. The theme for the 2023 International Customs Day is nurturing the next generation, promoting a culture of knowledge sharing and professional pride in customs. It is instructive to the extent that professionalism is one of the core values of customs, by extension the Ghana Revenue Authority. And this theme actually places human capital and narrows down to the next generation or the young customs officers in terms of building their capability to meeting the challenges of the present and the future.
Right.
Now, there's an issue with that because you see two bands of customs officers usually in every customs administration.
Right.
There's a first band who are very old and experienced customs officers who have built a lot of competence and expertise over the years. And they have certain inbuilt skills, certain developed skills that you can only get during the course of time through the years of your work.
Yes.
And that is called what we call the tacit knowledge.
Okay.
There is also this band of young customs officers who are IT savvy, who are very energetic, who are very ambitious. They are careful about sustainability and about the environment and the like. But they require that kind of tacit knowledge so that we don't go around in circles repeating mistakes that have already been made, yes. So what this theme actually does is to place the focus on the young customs officers. And in our administration, it calls for a systematic means of transferring knowledge from the older generation or the experienced generation to the younger generation, while creating the avenue for intergenerational discussions and interaction to be able to also harness the total collective might that these two groups may have. So to that extent, it helps us directly meet our objectives as a customs administration. Thank you.
All right. Mr. President, let me come to you and find out. I want to find out, he gave us, the evolution of customs over the years and all that. And I just want to find out from you some of the things that you think they require, the customs division requires, in order to be able to kind of like inject some element of modernization, modification, transformation, to help them effectively and efficiently play their role in our frontiers, national frontiers, to ensure that things are smooth and that we are also safe in terms of even travels.
Yeah, thank you. I think customs itself is a unique entity that creates their own tools for work. And the World Customs Organization has been assisting all customs administration across the world to develop such tools. And one of the tools is the Safe Framework of Standards, which I believe Ghana Customs as well has taken cue from and are picking up what it said for them to be abreast with today's complexity of international trade. But how equipped they are in order to take advantage of the tools that have been formulated through the Safe Framework of Standards is another, which means that policyholders must make sure that they make available good or sufficient funds in order to take care of their capacity building. Just like he said, some officers have gone through and are still with them.
Yes.
They have gone through when this Safe Framework of Standards were not there. They've made their mistakes. They had had their experiences that they can use to guide the young ones that are coming. So for now, my opinion is to find a way and a platform that we can bring all these two bands of officials together in order to share this knowledge among themselves for the older one to impact this knowledge for them. So for me, from where I sit, I think that should be the way forward, by the policy makers to give them the required funding that they can be able to brace the storm.
Okay, so let me come to you. You made mention of the, tacit knowledge, the older officers who have the expertise, the experience, who have gone through, risen through the ranks, gone through the mill, and all that. And those budding young officers who are coming up and who have the zeal, they are aware of the environment, they are aware of, all the things around them that would make a modern customs administration quite effective, but also require that tacit knowledge. I just want to find out from you how the Customs Division of the GRA has helped newly recruited officers, supported them to realize their full potential as they come into the job.
Thank you very much once again. And many officers, many people who join the Customs Division join as civilians. And you have to become an officer as a customs officer.
Yes.
And so the first thing that is done is to take you through a process where you are trained and reoriented so that you are fit for purpose in terms of playing your role as a customs officer. And so you are given paramilitary training, you are given some trainings on the rudiments of the customs work, how to do customs examination, how to make interdictions, how to communicate with other officers, the processes using the harmonized commodity description and coding system, how to do valuation, rules of origin, certain things that every customs officer needs to know are the very basic.
Right.
Now, officers progress through ranks. So as officers are progressing through ranks, they go for refresher training programs.
Right.
That is explicit knowledge. And so the kind of training that you also get comes through the roles that you play, the tasks that you are assigned. So if you are assigned to classification, you take other courses, in-service training courses, to build your capacity in that particular area. Like the president said, we create our own curriculum and then we build ourselves in that.
Right.
There is also the option of going through other training programs, exchange programs with other customs administrations, and here the World Customs Organization comes in very handy with a lot of training programs that are geared towards making officers rounded for the job. I would also mention, in addition to the SAFE initiative that he mentioned, the program Global Shield. That has to do with improvised explosive devices. There is the strategic trade control enforcement that talks about weapons of mass destruction, how to be able to identify them, threats and trends in there. There is also one on illicit financial flow, money laundering, a host of training programs. So once an officer is recruited and goes through the first stage of training, which is paramilitary, and then the basic customs knowledge, then you go through another band of general training. Some of them are even available online at the WCO website. There is a virtual customs orientation academy, which gives officers a good international viewpoint of the nature of our work. So a combination of this makes an officer rounded for his job.
Right. I see. Thank you very much indeed. That's awesome. But let me come to Mr. President and find out from you whether you think there are any new ways where we can enhance, compliance, security, safety, and also operational efficiency in terms of international trade. Are there any recommendations you can make or suggestions?
The recommendations that are there to be made to enhance efficiency, it's a platform that leads to training, education and training. And how do we get education and training? So like I said earlier on, what is the policy makers take? And what is their steps that they are taking to establish this kind of platform for officers, that they can enhance their capacity, their ability to detect when, let's say, if a terrorist want to come to your country, today they know that if they pack all the guns together, it will be detected. But they can pack only the barrel separately. It will come at a different time. Next time the trigger. I mean, they can bring these things in pieces that if you don't have the ability to detect, before you know, all these things have come at different times and have been kept at different places,
right,
and will be moved to consolidate them at a place, to assemble them to become what they will use to cause harm. So it is very important in today's world that the capacity of customs officials to be enhanced all round.
Right, right. Okay, I know you have been in this business for a very long time, and you are widely read in terms of WCO, WTO and all that, and most of the conventions. You mentioned some of them and all that. I just want to find out from you what your assessment personally of our performance as a country is in terms of customs administration.
Well,
are we there?
Yeah, we are not yet there, but I cannot say that we haven't made any progress. We have made progress because I have been with them for some time now, and we've moved from when we used to use forms that are manual, that we use pen to even to write what we are supposed to declare for customs. At one point, you can make, if you make a mistake, you can cancel and rewrite.
Yes.
And up to a point, if you make a mistake, then it is better for you to do what? To change the whole form, because there is a place at the front desk called adjustments. You must come to explain why such a mistake.
Yes.
And those goes with sanctions until we moved to a Sikuda SAD form and up to. So we've gone far. We've gone far. But what I am looking forward to is to take the new instruments, the conventions that we have signed as a country, that we agree to participate in a certain manner, or we want to be among the trading nation to do things in a particular manner, that we should continue to take those conventions strongly and then work according to it.
Okay, let me come to you. I know in Ghana, the main training institution for customs officers is in Kwetwe. Yes, and I just want to find out from you, beside that, what other special training does the World Customs Organization require of, customs administrations in terms of training, for officers?
Okay, thank you very much. So the World Customs Organization usually would suggest a number of training programs for customs officers. Again, it's tailored towards the unique situations of the various customs administrations. For Ghana and its neighbors, the threat of terrorism, you would agree with me, appears to be inching closer to us. And so there is more, there's a trigger for an edge for us to move towards giving ourselves a certain posture to prevent the occurrence of these things. Before they happen, they will usually move materials across international borders. So there will be precursor materials that will be moved. And so I mentioned the program Global Shield. There are also going to be WMDs, weapons of mass destruction, chemicals, biological agents, radiological and nuclear materials. And just like what happened in Heathrow, 29 December last year, where they found nuclear material at an airport, we should also have the capability to be able to make some of these detections. And they point towards certain trends so that we can also even be able to use the information that is coming in, the quality of goods, the nature of goods, we can be able to analyze them. So the WCO recommends that or expects that customs administration be able to make use of big data, neural networks, artificial intelligence, and a lot of data that is around to be able to interpret it properly within the specific context of our situation, be it for revenue purposes or for security purposes or for promotion of international trade. So we should be able to better analyze it and contribute our quota to the international customs community as a very responsible customs administration that we are.
All right, so let's come to the issue of smuggling, terrorism and criminal organization, like you said. I think that we perhaps would have to be looking at how to get the public and private sectors to collaborate in order to be effective in our fight against this particular, menace or these particular ills. What are your suggestions, or what do you think?
My suggestion is this. The cooperation between the private and the government sector, and for that matter, customs, is what advance notice can we get on goods that are being loaded from the foreign country that are intended either to pass through our jurisdiction or which ends up in our jurisdiction. How are we able to know what they are? So this calls for collaboration. Before any goods leave any shore, it must go through customs.
Right.
So therefore, the ability of the exporting countries' customs to share that data with the importing or the transiting country is very, very crucial. And that is how we can win the first-hand intelligence about what goods are coming. And I have something that I used to say is that who packed the box? Who packed the box is the owner of the goods or the shipper. You can only know what is in your container, and you are the best person to disclose. So if the shipper or the owner of the goods is able to collaborate with the exporting country or the exporting country agencies that are responsible, are able to authenticate and, authenticate what is being shipped, and that data reaches, or that information reaches the destination country or the transiting country on time, they will have the ability to analyze, to see whether these goods are genuine goods that does not contain any contrabands.
Absolutely.
So sharing of information, data, is very key.
Okay, so in terms of data sharing, how have we fared? How do we even have the data to say we are sharing?
Yes. Coming back to data sharing, it still comes back to
because most of the time we talk about an integrated system where we can have a pool, everybody.
Yes, it still comes back to it still comes back to nations that trade among themselves. What are the bilateral trade agreements? What are the multilateral trade agreements between nations? That if a cargo is leaving the shores of Ghana to UK, Ghana could assure the UK government that this container that is coming contains maybe orange peels, dried orange peels, organic grown orange peels. And that is that you can assure the receiving country that this is what is there. And there are other measures that you must put in place that even during transit, no foreign material could be introduced into that said container that you have dispatched from your shores. And that includes even the carriers. The carriers must also be able to assure you that this cargo that they are receiving from your end, they are going to take care of it, that no one, at no point that any person will be able to introduce any foreign material into it. So it is a chain.
Right.
So that supply chain must be safe. And that is the only way we can go about it.
Okay. All right. That's awesome. Let me come to Mr. Akrofi and find out from you. You have young officers coming up, and tonight we're discussing how to promote professionalism, in customs, Ghana's customs administration. I want to find out from you how you are able to inculcate the habit of professionalism in young officers when they come.
Thank you. You see, that looks like quite a very open-ended question.
Yes.
And that also makes the administration now responsible for creating a system where knowledge can be tapped and infused into the younger generation. So the first is to create an intergenerational opportunity for dialogue. And the Customs Administration of Ghana now creates opportunities for young officers to be mentored by older ones. And here we ask the younger ones to try and identify and then copy the actions of officers who are outstanding.
Yes.
And then we have tried to create a system which is a knowledge management system that fuses into the bigger knowledge management system of the Ghana Revenue Authority. And it starts with first capturing the tacit knowledge.
Yes.
And then the explicit knowledge. So whilst creating that formal opportunity for dialogue, we also encourage the various stations and the various collections to provide that avenue for discussion during the course of work. Because it looks as if that if an officer who is experienced shares all their nuggets, then it means that there's nothing more in the box to share and they risk not being relevant.
Right.
But this time around, we want to place emphasis on officers who want to share knowledge, identify them, and then reward them. And so during this International Customs Day, you realize that officers who were more involved in sharing their knowledge were identified and rewarded. The first thing, like I said, is to create the knowledge. So you create the knowledge by tapping the implicit knowledge from the experienced officers. And then the next step will be to capture the knowledge and write it down such that it can be easily referred to. So we have now we are expecting to have a compendium of written down experiences, even including past failures, so that mistakes will not be repeated. So after capturing the relevant information, it now becomes a resource for storing in a manner that can easily be retrieved. So we create, we capture, we store, and the next stage is to use and reuse the knowledge. So you realize that the experience of somebody is now being tapped, stored for use, and then for reuse. It informs what we call best practices. It informs what we call standard operating procedures. It helps us to refine our work modules and ethics that we have, so that we are constantly reinventing ourselves to be better able to do the work. And we believe that with these steps, we will get to the stage where we have institutional memory. And then by the time somebody is leaving the service, the person might have imparted so much so that that knowledge will not necessarily be lost. And of course, the honor will go to the officers who are also giving this. They can sit back and see the service that they left still rich in knowledge and technical expertise and more poised to face the challenges of the present and future in a very rapidly dynamic trade environment.
Right.
So that's how we plan to to manage this knowledge.
You mentioned awards, and we saw some people pick awards on the day. Did you pick an award yourself?
Unfortunately, I was a previous awardee, so this time around, I think that somebody else was identified and awarded, and I share in the joy of that particular person.
All right, so how many officers in all picked awards on the day?
We had 20 awards going with citations, and then we had 2 special awards for some NAPCO staff who did brilliantly well in intercepting some counterfeit currencies.
NAPCO staff?
NAPCO staff.
So do they gain automatic entry into the service?
The policy decides.
All right. Yeah. So, what were some of the considerations that went into the various awards that you gave? I mean, what were some of the things that they did that drew attention of management? Like, this guy, he or she deserves some recognition.
Essentially, outstanding performance in the area of sharing knowledge and sharing expertise. There are some of these officers who have been to several stations over the course of several years and have gathered very rich experiences. And on their own, you realize that wherever they live, they reinvent themselves in other offices. So wherever they get to, the place becomes richer. And it actually translates into the performance of revenue and protection and all that.
Right.
So sector commanders were asked to identify such individuals who have shown exceptional brilliance in terms of contributing to the international customs community. And we had this number, and citations, abridged citations were read, and you could see how rich they were in terms of their willingness to share their knowledge and the impact that it has had over the past year. Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. I see. Let me come to you, Mr. President, and find out from you. We have 182 countries, constituting, the World Customs Organization. These are member countries and all that. In your estimation, what role does this particular organization play in the lives, in the operations of these, countries and their customs administrations?
WCO, of course, is the base where they generate most tools for customs administration. So WCO is the base where the harmonized commodity code gave birth to.
Yes.
They have these rules of origin. That is the home of it.
Yes.
Safe framework of standards. Name them.
Yeah.
Name Kyoto. Revised Kyoto Convention, Revised Kyoto Convention, that details what customs must do and what even its other agencies must do, what the private sector, let's say the trading public also must do in order to fit in within the trading supply chain.
Right.
So WCO is the base and the base where all customs administration tap their new knowledge.
Yeah.
Or it's like a storehouse of knowledge that they always draw from.
Absolutely. All right, so I know that sometimes the architecture of the local customs administration, for instance, GRA Customs Ghana, they have their own policies and rules and all that, and they would have to merge that or incorporate that of the WCO to guide the operations and all that. Is this something we have been able to manage effectively?
Yes, WCO, imagine that this is Ghana, the next country is Togo, the next by the western side is Cote d'Ivoire.
Yes.
Up there is Burkina Faso. If all of them will have a different set of rules that governs trade, it will be very chaotic. So WCO gives the lead that says that commodities that are traded among nations must be described or must be labeled with a certain coding.
Right.
So if 0101 is life animal, it's supposed to be the same when you code the same 0101.
In another country.
When you quote it here, when you take that document to another country,
Yes.
once they see the code, it's the same thing.
Right.
So they all have one
It's uniform.
interpretation. The difference is in it is that at the WCO level, we talk about the first 6 digits of commodity code.
Right.
Some countries use 8 digits, some countries use 10 digits. So therefore, the last 2 or 4 digits becomes either the regional and then the national.
Right.
But the first 6 digits is the same across board. When you pick any commodity code, the first 6 digits in Ghana is supposed to be the same thing in the United States, in the UK, in Germany, in Australia, the whole Africa, Middle East, Asia is the same. So that is the basis for which all customs administration moves.
Right. Okay. Awesome. Let me come to you. During the event, the Secretary General of WCO was emphatic that customs needs to enhance its scope of knowledge sharing with indirect stakeholders, including the general public. I just want to find out from you how GRA Customs is going to be able to do this. Effective knowledge sharing with relevant stakeholders and even the general public.
Yes, thank you very much.
Maybe to engender and to enhance compliance and all that.
Thank you very much. You realize that stakeholders and the general public are not left out in the work that we do.
Yeah.
You realize that we have migrated to the Integrated Customs Management System, the ICUMS, and everybody plays a role, that the regulatory agencies, the trading communities, customs itself, the banks, everybody is on board. So any modification to the system would require that we work together. So WCO is requiring a very rigorous customs clearance model or management model that is informed by information or opinions from all kinds of stakeholders, especially the general public in terms of feedback from the regulatory agencies and even from academia. So we are looking at even customs getting or participating in think tanks so that we can be able to assess and reassess the clearance or the service delivery that we are giving to the general public, because it is people-centered.
Yes.
And so the people need to have that kind of input into it. And then if there's any education coming, and 2023 would focus on a lot of education for the general public because of some interventions that are supposed to be rolled out. These interventions will target the general public and will elicit, whilst informing them, elicit their views to better improve it. So that is how GRA Customs has postured itself to be able to interact better with the general public, disseminate information, give training, provide training, and also receive feedback that is required for making sure that the systems that we are running is fit for purpose.
Great. Thank you very much indeed. That is Mr. Samuel Akrofi. He's the Principal Revenue Officer, the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority. He's at the laboratories. And we also have in the studios Mr. Joseph Agbaga, who is former president of the Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders. He's also an astute freight forwarder, widely read, lecturer. I mean, the accolades goes on and on and on. We're going for a quick break right now, and when we bounce back, we'll continue the show. Please do stay with us.
Every now and again, Goil makes good things happen. This time, Goil has introduced Super XP Ron 95, a higher grade fuel loaded with additives and yet sold at the same price as normal fuel. Goil Super XP Ron 95 enhances engine performance like never before. It maintains the engine by keeping it clean from carbon deposits. Goil Super XP Ron 95 is designed to burn slowly and thus improves fuel economy, making you save money after several kilometers. Gold Super XP Ron 95 gives you a smooth driving experience that is less vibrations. Fill up with Gold Super XP Ron 95. Now there's no need to pay more for any higher grade fuel. Goil has that sorted. Goil, good energy.
Electricity, then pay your taxes. Our taxes, our future.
Because you see, without our taxes, we wouldn't have good roads, good schools, better hospitals, street lights, and other very important social amenities. When we pay our taxes, we give our children free and quality education. My money too small. Why should I pay my tax? Look, small. Salifo, it doesn't matter how small or big your business or income is. You still have to pay your taxes. The little taxes from each and every one of us, when put together, could give your community clean water or that deprived school with tables and chairs. Please pay your taxes. It is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. It is the law.
Impressive factory. If only I had listened to you, I wouldn't have been in this mess. That devastating fire virtually wiped out the whole factory and my warehouse.
Remember my misfortunes last year? Serene Insurance Asset All Risk Fire policy that I took were there to pay for my damaged stocks in the warehouse. And my machines that were affected by the flood have been replaced. My accident vehicle is back on the road thanks to Serene Insurance motor policy. Currently, my goods are on the IC covered with their marine cargo insurance policy. I was just telling Ajima about Serene Insurance.
Oh, Ajima,
tell him more.
As a road contractor, I make sure I do my contractors all risk insurance for the projects and then workers' compensation for all the workers on site. With Serene Insurance, they will make sure they will cover your unknown tomorrow today.
Serene Insurance, a new face of insurance. Call us now.
MPS Terminal 3 is Africa's new state-of-the-art container terminal at Tema Port. For manufacturers, agro-processors and traders, the new port means business can be done faster. This infrastructure boost will improve Ghana's port handling capacity, connect more trading routes, and oil the engine of growth for the economy, creating greater opportunities across all sectors as Africa's markets merge and become the largest trading bloc globally. MPS, we connect, you thrive.
All right, so you're welcome back. We're discussing how to promote professionalism in Ghana's customs administration, and this comes on the heels of the recently celebrated World Customs Day, which was celebrated here also in Ghana. And so with me in the studios, Mr. Samuel Akrofi, who is the Principal Revenue Officer, Ghana Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority. He's with the laboratories. And indeed, Mr. Joseph Agwaga, who is a former president of the Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders. These are the two gentlemen we're doing the discussion with tonight. I've been told by the production team that we can activate the phone lines for you to call in and contribute to the discussion. The number to dial is 020-552-8353, 020-552-8353. You can call in and contribute to the discussion. Before we continue, gentlemen, I think some messages have come through. Let's see, this one says, my greetings to your panel members, especially Mr. Joseph Agwaga. Please, I want to know from the customs officer when they are going to regulate or ban individual importers who engage in door-to-door shipping services in Ghana without a license to avoid illegally imported goods like guns, drugs, and undisclosed goods, which endanger our safety and security. This one is from Solomon Adai, Moon World Logistics.
I think I have to assure Solomon that irrespective of who brings it in, whether door-to-door or whatever means, if you bring in weapons and you conceal it, we have the capability, we have the technology to intercept it, and we do the interceptions all the time.
Okay.
Yes. So, of course, once he's raised issues with door-to-door shipping, I may not be able to disclose a lot on set, but there's profiling of the various traders.
Right.
And we use risk management a lot. And if you are found to have flouted any customs law, you know that the job that is done on your goods is going to be stricter.
Right.
We actually want voluntary compliance. So we want to reward those who are compliant, and we want to make life very difficult for the non-compliant traders. So this also goes as a warning to people who would want to smuggle, that if you smuggle, the country of origin, the exporter who's exported to you, we will go through all that, find out whether sanctions have been issued from country of origin, from the routes, the destination, the port of shipment, and all that kind of thing. There are lots that we put, there's a lot that we put into our risk management model, and you don't want to get on that side of customs because life will be very difficult for you. We encourage everybody to be compliant so that you even get to the stage where by the time you are ready to clear, customs has given you the clearance. And some very compliant organizations or clearing agents enjoy that privilege. So we want to encourage everybody to be compliant on their own volition. Thank you.
Right, okay. This one is from Nana Mansa Nimako. She says, good evening, Iron Port. Respectfully, could you find out from the former GIF president what he makes of the decision by government to amend the Customs Act to allow for people to clear goods themselves? Well, Mr. President.
Yeah, thank you. Ajwa Mansa,
Nana Mansa.
Nana Mansa. Well, I also heard the minister in his policy statement that is going to cause an amendment to be done so that individuals could do their own clearance. Well, as at now, the amendment has not taken effect yet. But what I know that is going on is Article 10.6 of the TFA agreement is being used as a precursor why self-clearance must be allowed. And on this platform, I want to say that Article 10.6 did not talk about self-clearance. Article 10.6 of the TFA agreement, which Ghana is also a party to, only says that some countries that made it mandatory that clearance must only go through an agent or a custom broker, when the TFA comes into force, that should stop. They should allow, they should not make it mandatory. That is all what it says. And during the assessment needs, when this article was being touched on.
Needs assessment.
Yeah, the needs assessment prior to the TF agreement. What Ghana was practicing is a hybrid type. Ghana allows SDs, that is self-declarance, that is corporate bodies. And then Ghana allows custom brokers also to clear for third parties. So these are the two tracks that Ghana is on. So during discussion, Ghana is already compliant and has not fallen into the category that forces that until
Please go ahead.
Until you go to a custom broker.
Is your microphone on, Mr. President?
Yes, it's on.
It's on, okay, sure.
Yes, it's
Please
on.
go. Okay, sure. Yeah.
Unless you use a custom broker that you can't clear, Ghana is not in that category. So saying that
Okay,
individuals.
I think the paper, yes, that's on it. Sure. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, the rubber. Yeah, I think it's the sound is going into the.
Okay.
Yes. Sorry about that. Please go ahead.
So to say that the self-declarants need to be introduced.
Yes.
Yes. If the state thinks that anybody who comes up with their goods wants to go and clear.
Yes.
It is up to government to decide. But the caution is that within the same TFA agreement,
yes,
Article 7(5) talks about post-clearance audit. How will government go after those individual names,
yes,
who has brought in their goods and have cleared and they are gone? How are they going to go after them in case they find something through post-clearance audit? How are they going to look for them?
Yes.
So that is the first caution that I will throw to whoever want to champion self-clearance.
Okay, all right. Let's go on to the phone lines. I understand we have a caller, and then when we come back, we'll take more messages. Hello, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Your name, please.
My name is Stephen.
Stephen?
Yes, please.
Oh, good to have you, sir. Stephen Boachi. Please go ahead, sir.
I live abroad, and I think we should have a law that will help us to pay for our shipping over there. One, it gives the government the hard currency that they need, and also to make it easier for us. So if you pay for your everything, you pay for the handling, shipping, and everything. So when you come in, it's just the paperwork to go through. So let's say they give you that. When you come over, within a week or 3 days, you should get your things. That will help us well, because it will help the government, and as I said, it will help us as well, because sometimes you come over, you've done door to door. Your things may not even get here before. Even if it's door to door, you made a system that the money should be paid to the government at the embassy or whatever it is. Then when you come here, it's easier for you. I've pushed for that for ages, and so we don't have any answers from the government.
Right. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Boachi. We're grateful. Mr. Akrofi, Mr. Agwaga, I think.
Questioned well.
Did you get him?
Yes, I thought he was
talking
happy.
about.
Yes.
Yes, talking about having a system where they can pay upfront their duties and all that, wherever they are. He is based in abroad, so that when they get here, they will just begin the process of clearing. Just the paperwork. They don't have to go through the hustle and bustle of, there's now time they are going to pay duties and all that. Is that something that is feasible?
Yes. Once it's an electronic system and payment is done through the banking system, more engagement would lead to finding some of these solutions. Indeed, if you are bringing in Forex, it's very welcome into our country. So I believe it's not something that would be
that was one of the statements he made, that Ghana needs the Forex. And
exactly.
So, once they pay it over there, it's remitted to the country, and then I think that... Okay, so I understand we have Madam Mary Boche, who's calling us from Accra. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. I'm just following the discussion on the customs on the telly.
Yes, madam.
Yes, I just want to say, why is it that customs don't destroy items that we don't need on the streets at the harbor before they even come to the country? Because these are all, useless selling things that we don't even need in the country. At least they should target those things, destroy them at the airport before they even get into town. That is very necessary.
Right. Thank you very much, Mom. We're grateful to you for your call. Straightforward. Do you have anything to say with respect to her submission?
Yes. Customs carries out distraction. If your goods come into the country and then it can be brought into regulatory compliance, it is brought into regulatory compliance. Sometimes it's not properly labeled, it's not in English, and even the printing is water soluble, so if it can easily be washed away, you'll be made to redo the labeling if the product meets certain quality standards.
Yes.
However, if it does not meet certain quality standards, we destroy them.
Okay.
There are instances in which we have destroyed goods that have stayed at the port for a very long period of time, even because it was a subject of a legal litigation, and during the course of the legal battle, the product has expired.
Yeah.
But we also found something very interesting, that certain organizations had registered as waste disposal companies outside. And it's more expensive to destroy some of the goods outside. So they may come in whatever form, but at the point of arrival in the country, you realize that they might have expired or they are nearing expiry. If we go ahead and just destroy some of these things, what happens is that there's a procedure for destruction. So it is inspected, it is marked for destruction, and it is actually destroyed at various rubbish dumps in the presence of customs, the police. If it's a food item, the Food and Drugs Authority will be there. Each and every institution would usually give a certificate of destruction. Now we realize that some of these organizations pick these destruction certificates, go back to countries of origin, and say that, look, I did this destruction in the country. And then it has the approval of the various regulatory agencies in the country. This is the certificate to attest to that. And if you are not careful, we will also become the dumping ground for materials that are not of good quality. So what we do is that we do some basic investigation. If we find out that at the time you were leaving, it was leaving the point of exit or the originating country, it was expired or it was nearing the expiry, we will make you export it back to the country of origin at your own cost. So yes, we do distraction, and sometimes we punish recalcitrant importers by making them export these things to the country of origin at their own expense.
Great. Okay. So says, I'm Vincent, and my question is, what do I need to do to become a customs officer, please?
So if I'm to answer that question, periodically the customs advertises in the dailies. We don't usually say that it is the Customs Administration of Ghana. It comes as a reputable state organization is doing that. And just apply. You may find yourself coming for an interview with customs.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. This one says, I am Evans, a graduate with accounting background. Please, any vacancy?
Evans, I pray that you get a job with customs when the portal is open.
All right. Okay, so I think that would continue. We have barely 5 minutes to go, barely 5 minutes. So let's just see. Last year, International Customs Day, I think the theme centered on customs digital transformation by embracing a data culture and building a data ecosystem. I just want to find out from you how far you've come in terms of your quest to do this.
Yes, if you have been involved in customs work, you realize that there's been a lot of, we have provided this electronic platform for data interchange and interface. So permits are issued online, and clearing agents and travel and transport organizations, logistics and transport organizations are able to sit in the comfort of their homes and their offices to send information to customs. What we have done with the data is to be able to analyze it very well, such that we can do our risk management and then ensure compliance to the trade that is going on. So we used the data as input. We analyze it. We are able to profile these goods, and we are able to make sure that the turnaround time is convenient for our traders. So we have done a lot with the data, and we also have made it difficult for recalcitrant traders. Somebody might not have an exemption. Previously, you could just get into the system through an exemption and get to a certain policy and programs office before you are told that, oh, you didn't have the authority to use that permit in the first place. Or somebody's quota might have expired, and unless somebody is vigilant, they initially would not have been able to see it. But now the system has been programmed using the data that is actually being moved together with the goods, such that you can be able, the system will automatically block somebody if you don't qualify for the system. It also makes it makes you get to know what you have to do.
Right.
So it's very interactive, and we use the data to be able to promote compliant trade. That's how far we have come.
Right.
Yeah.
Great. That's awesome. Mr. President, let me find out from you, maybe your final words. I just want to find out what your expectations are of the Customs Division of the GRA. You followed them, you've been with them all this while, you worked hand in hand with them, and you, like I said, you even traversed the WTO and WTO. I just want to find out from you what you expect to see, in the year ahead.
In the year ahead is how to consolidate the knowledge base and a medium that can be formalized in sharing that same knowledge. Because anything that we do is about information and knowledge.
Absolutely.
So I'm looking forward for the consolidation of the knowledge, those who have it, to share with those who don't have. That's what I'm looking forward for.
For the year.
Yeah,
right,
for the year.
All right.
And as far as customs is concerned, they move beyond their own domain. They must move into the private sector, because they need the private sector also. They must build that trust between the customs administration and the private sector, so that the private sector will also be coming up with accurate and timely information that will make the work of customs very handy.
Okay. All right. Finally, Mr. Akroffi, I just want to find out from you. Let's talk about, revenue mobilization and your ability to, achieve your targets and even exceed. Last year, we were told you exceeded your targets as much as 30% and all that. This year, you have another target, a huge one at that. How do you intend to get that done?
Yes, thank you very much. It always is a challenge for us to achieve these targets. We see that as our contribution to national development. First of all, I just want to say that we are grateful to the government for removing the benchmark values that allow for customs to be able to impose the taxes without discounts, and it helps us to achieve the targets. And then, again, is the vexed issue of the LI 2248 to allow for self-declarants and to support also individuals to be able to do the clearance. According to the policy in paragraph 219 and paragraphs 461, we are envisaging that it will translate into more people self-initiating the clearance, and then helping to cut down the cost of doing business in terms of clearance of goods. But of course, it's subject, it's policy, so it's subject to a lot of discussion and refinement.
We just have barely a minute, so
yes,
we just have to wrap up. I think our time is running out.
The only benefit of that self-clearance is the cost reduction.
Yeah, that's right, sure.
That is the only advantage. Okay. But apart from that, the disadvantage overweighs.
Many. Okay, all right. Are you done, Mr. Akroffi?
Just
in 2 seconds, because
just in 2 seconds.
Yeah, our time is up.
Sin taxes will be improved.
Yes.
Will be made higher. So taxes on tobacco, alcohol, and sugar sweetening beverages, and the rest, to protect the health of the people. So we will be doing more of smart taxation, so that we can get a lot of revenue for national development.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Samuel Akroffi, he is a Principal Revenue Officer, Customs Division, Ghana Revenue Authorities at the Customs Laboratory. And indeed, we say thank you very much to Mr. Joseph Agbaga, who is a former President of the Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders. He is also the Chief Executive of J. Spedy Freight Forwarding Company.
RJD.
RJD, yes.
Consulting.
Right, exactly. RJD Consulting. So we thank the two gentlemen for being with us tonight, for obliging us, for bringing us, joining us to come your way with the Iron Pod tonight. Remember, the abridged version of the show is aired on Ghana Television every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. So make a date and watch that one. And we'll also say big thanks to our sponsors, Ghana Radio Authority, Goil Company Limited, Serene Insurance, Ghana Link Network Services, and Meridian Port Services, MPS. Remember, the show is powered by the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority-GPHA. God willing, next week we shall bounce back with another wonderful edition of the show. My name is Kennedy Mona. We thank you so much for joining us, and we entreat you to keep watching the rest of our programs tonight. We say good evening to you and have a super week ahead. Bye for now.